Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for registering and being a part of this NCIFT suppliers events. This is the first educational event for this month, and the title is Key Actions to Maintain Your Food Safety Program During Disruptions. So just to let you guys know that this is a live event and the recorded version will be available after the event is done. This qualifies for your certified food scientist continuing educational hours. Oh, what happened? Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, you got cut off.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Where did you hear me till?
The hours.
Hours. Okay. The information and opinions expressed in this session are those of the presenter. Hello?
Yeah, you cut off again.
I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. So there's a disclaimer that the information and opinions expressed in this session are those of the presenter. They may not represent those of NCIFT or IFT. And we have more educational sessions during the month of April, and we would be more than happy. And there is a registration link on each of the sessions on the IFT page. So you can register for April 12th, April 19th, or April 28th, depending on your availability. And there is a Q&A session at the end of the event. Please use the chat icon at the bottom of your screen anytime during the presentation. And we would like to take a moment to thank all the suppliers and event sponsors for this event. Dragonfly SCI, Flavor Producers, Specific Product Guidance, Gitad, Amtech, Munzing, FSNS, Food Arome, Centrochem, SPI, and Prosur. So just to let you know about our speaker, Oscar Camacho founded Superior Food Safety in 2009 and has built a reputation as the go-to food safety expert. Mr. Camacho's on-the-job experiences and consulting and training engagements span the globe and entire range of the industry, from restaurants and retailers to food production at large-scale manufacturing plants. Mr. Camacho previously worked as a founder and CEO of 2 food companies. His responsibilities at all levels in food industry corporations ranged from making food to being the director of food safety and quality site operations manager and production manager. This breadth of knowledge and experience enables Mr. Camacho to effectively advise clients in the best ways to organize and assign food safety roles within a food safety system. So if you want to know more about him or if you want any of his services, you can feel free to reach him at oscar.camacho@superiorfoodsafety.com. And thank you. So may the live session begin. I'll stop sharing my screen. So
Thank you so much, Reshmi, for the introduction, and welcome everybody who are coming to this webinar. And I would like to thank NCIFT and the 21 Suppliers Exposition for this invitation to speak about the key actions to maintain food safety programs during disruptions. A little bit about our company. Our company provides basically consulting and training services, food safety services for the supply chain. We are an SQL licensed training center. And we also provide a variety of products such as software consulting retainer bundle, which is a new product that we're promoting now, GFSI implementation projects, and GFSI and FISMA compliance consultative audits, food safety system design or redesign, and food safety special projects as well. Now, there's no doubt that the pandemic has impacted from different fronts, food operations and the capability to maintain food safety and quality programs as a result. Now, from production volatility to employee turnover and absenteeism, definitely there has been a huge impact into the food industry in the last year. So what I would like to do, because the industry got impacted not only in aspects associated with employee absenteeism, but supply chain disruptions, among others. It has been a challenge for the industry. Just to let you know, we're gonna be putting some polls that I would like you to provide feedback on. So when you see this sign, the Omega sign on the side, so there will be a poll out there. So here's the first one. How much the food safety program has been impacted during the pandemic in your plan, in your business? Please go ahead. These answers are totally anonymous. We don't know who's answering those back, but it would be great to have the feedback from you. So please go ahead. Great. So 100% has answered somehow impacted, but we were able to handle it. Thank you so much for that answer. So basically, so somehow you were impacted. So let's talk about what is the link between COVID or the pandemic or this crisis and the food safety systems. So number one, resources. Many companies that rely on, for example, specific markets like food service got impacted with decrease in sales, but other companies got impacted with increase in sales. So those companies that got impacted and the revenue was reduced, definitely it had an impact in the overall company, including food safety. So we'll see a little bit more about that. We had a spread of events in food safety in food manufacturing plants. As you know, meat plants were forced to shut down. Some small businesses even didn't make it due to this situation. Food and Environment Reporting Network reports that 57,000 meat and poultry workers have been infected by COVID-19 virus, and 284 deaths took place in this type of industry. The other one is operational volatility that impacts indirectly food safety systems. Sudden increase in sales, example, companies with retail and main market, some of those had a 100% increase. So how prepared were those companies to meet those demands? Sudden operation increase brings increase in food safety risk if companies not ready to fulfill production peaks due to shifts in market demand. So food safety hygiene practices served as a good foundation to implement COVID-19 protocols. That was a good thing that companies, food manufacturing companies, based on the food safety protocols, already understood the importance of those into food safety, and they applied those as benchmark to enhance those controls. A decreased workforce and labor shortage. This has many implications for food safety. I put it as a critical because in many cases, it impacted companies big time. Another one was the absence of key plant supervision. In the case of quality control center systems versus food safety management system, it caused a systemic failure. As an example, I have clients that the SQL practitioner or the food safety leader left, and because the company was working on a silo when it comes to the maintenance and responsibilities towards food safety, many things fall on the cracks when it comes to the maintenance of food safety programs. Supply chain disruptions, dependency on one supplier, for example, for specific raw material, materials close to expiration date, food fraud, transport, domestic versus overseas, logistics, you name it. So many fronts when it comes to relation to supply chain disruptions. R&D, adjusting products and labels from food service to retail. Many companies, as I mentioned previously, depended heavily on the food service industry. And you know, there was a collapse in this industry. It was heavily impacted. As a result, they didn't have where to put their products. So they ended up trying to adjust products for the retail package industry. And it brought with it some food safety risks as well. Services, preventative maintenance, cleaning and sanitation, lab testing, etc., were impacted due to disruption on those services and the maintenance of food safety programs. Another good one is a lack of clarity on regulators when it came to COVID-19 measures, regulatory measures from city to county to state versus CDC, FDA, USDA, and OSHA. Food companies were caught in between like a sandwich, and they didn't know what to do when it came to regulatory matters. All these aspects definitely impacted food safety. So what I would like to do at the end of this one is ask of this slide is to ask you to respond to the next poll. But before that, one of the things regarding I'm taking here the SQF Food Safety Management System to go over some key of those that impacted the food safety management systems. And I highlighted those in here. So management commitment, supplier approval, crisis management and food fraud, and finally training. So there are specific requirements that are systemic when it comes to maintenance of the food safety programs. And we're gonna see the reasoning under each of these management systems. The number one is management commitment, resources, for example, and accountability. You know, when it comes to management commitment, those are the two key ones. Provision of the resources and making sure that those who have responsibility over food safety programs are accountable for the execution and compliance of those. Usually, the responsibility is designated to the quality department, which takes us to another situation, which is the appropriate system design, the QC versus food safety management design systems, which is a foundation and is really systemic into the industry because that's one of the elements, big elements in the benchmark that GFSI has brought into place. And companies are still learning because they don't understand systems. As a result, companies transition into GFSI programs maintaining QC center systems, and that doesn't work pretty well. And you will understand why. So before that, could you please launch the next poll? Thank you. So please mark root cause that impacted the most the food safety program in your business. So resources, lack of accountability, adjusted market fluctuation and shifting demands, and a decrease of the workforce, absence of plant supervision, supply chain disruptions, and disruption of outsourced services. So please go ahead and mark it up. So we have, let's see here. We're missing here. We only had 2 people. Is there anybody else there that, provide input? There you go. So we have 33% so far with lack of accountability. We have 33% adjusting market fluctuation and shifting demands. That was a biggie one for sure. 33% supply chain disruptions. Okay, great. So could you please share? So 33% lack of accountability, 33% adjusting market fluctuations and shifting demands, and 33% supply chain disruptions. So we're going to go over those. Could you please pull the point number 3 related with food safety management systems? Thank you. So let's go over this one. What type of system design does your company have? So does your company have a QC center system or QA center system? Food safety management system. Responsibility for food safety program are leveraged across company, 100%. That's great. Okay. So 100% responsibilities for food safety program are leveraged across company. Great, thank you so much. I'm gonna close this down. So coming back here, so I was talking about appropriate system designs, QC versus food safety management system, designation of SQL practitioner and primary and substitute is an element that is required under the SQL program, for example. And you know, when we're talking about a substitute is a person who is competent to take over those responsibilities of the food safety leader in the company. Integrity of food safety continued operation in the event of organizational personnel changes. This is a biggie one because this is taking the organizational chart and from top to bottom identify somebody who will be able to take over the responsibilities of the person who is actually responsible for that. And again, I'm talking from senior management, CEO, all the way down to frontline employees. And this is complex, but companies that are able to put in place solid systems associated with this requirement, much easier we're able to overcome the challenges that were faced during the pandemic. Cross-training, again, is in line with the previous one, identification and designation of specific food safety responsibilities and allocation of those backups, which is cross-training through the matrix. Remember, competency is a key as well. Training, resource to meet requirements from top down. Again, CEOs and senior management also require education and training on how they have to fulfill the responsibilities associated with management commitment, for example. Competency as per job description from top down as well, so which is the verification of the competency of everybody regarding those responsibilities. Another one is the allocation of resources through budgeting. Many companies fail to put in place budgets that are allocated for food safety and quality departments. So that includes QA personnel required for verification activities, a QA department, human resources, and other resources associated with those verification activities, ongoing training and updates, maintaining those systems, verification activities, third-party and internal audits, GMP inspections, calibration, in-house testing. All those verification activities require budgeting, outsourced services, pest control, calibration, consulting, lab testing, cleaning and sanitation, preventative maintenance, premises, building, equipment, a big one when it comes to maintaining the building. It's a foundational requirement that directly can impact food safety, and IT or software tools to monitor, verify, validate, and maintain the food safety programs. Accountability, senior management participation on food safety monthly meetings and yearly meetings, getting the inputs associated with compliance of the system, senior management follow-ups with management as per assigned food safety responsibility across company. And this is at the management level based on the designation of the responsibility per program or the food safety system. management sitting down with heads up when the program under each manager is in compliance, or senior management sitting down with each of those managers to see what's going on or what's happening when those programs are not under compliance. So, and the corrective actions. That includes food safety company objectives as well, based on GMP inspection results, third-party internal audit results, regulatory audit results, and crisis management action plans and follow-ups as well, to name a few. So each manager follows up with their reporting structure, trickling down that accountability, which means, let's say, operations manager, they have to make accountable on those ones, each of those aspects of the programs that they're responsible for, the supervisors, the leads, and then frontline employees. So that's how you trickle it down to the front line. All these activities, of course, supported by the food safety leader. This is a system that must be in place when it comes to the accountability, and also creates a two-way conversation between the parties in the reporting structure for resources as well. So what is the QC center system and the issues associated with QC center systems? Again, when we conduct audits, I would say 95% of the companies fall under this structure. The senior management designates as accountable for food safety and the outcome, which is compliance to the QA department. QA department executes those responsibilities through monitoring activities instead of those employees whose job is directly related to those. For example, metal detector. I see employees from the quality department doing the monitoring activities instead of designation to the operations team. So on the other hand, senior management focuses on productivity and efficiencies and other indicators and responsibilities with the rest of the company, putting on the side accountability on food safety under the reporting structure other than the QA department. So what happens with this is that the execution with no control creates frustration. So this is basically, remember, food safety is everybody's responsibility, but this systemic failure that I just described to you does not support the statement of that food safety is everybody's responsibility. So the common practice, again, is food safety department is responsible for the output compliance. So the way to do this correctly is that the food safety department should be responsible and designated for the verification of compliance of the food safety program in the company. They should not be held responsible for example, for GMP's compliance, hygiene practices of the operational team. That should be responsibility of the operations team. They are responsible to verify that those are in compliance at a second level. The first level of verification and supervision should be on the reporting structure of each department. The systemic issue impacts the development of a solid foundation that drives ownership and habit, which is culture. Again, through the system that is called verification. Verification that the monitoring activities are taking place as intended in the procedures and requirements of the food safety program. So food safety and quality departments working in a silo. They end up working in a silo with little support for accountability on food safety risk management. And that's the frustration. So the outcome is an unbalanced, costly policing system, difficult to maintain, with an increase on food safety risk that drives frustration. And of course, the habit is not driven by these kind of systems, because people react and follow when the policing system is walking around the facility. So what is the proposal? The proposal is to distribute or disseminate the food safety and quality responsibilities by leveraging your food safety and quality system. So again, in this case, the entire company is held responsible for the different programs as per job description of each manager. And that manager leverage those activities with the reporting structure. The QA plays an important role on the verification of the entire system as a second layer and works together with each of the managers, providing input and guidance on compliance of the systems. And of course, QA becomes the eyes of top management when it comes to the reporting on compliance and non-conformities, so that the senior management can take action according with each of the managers according to the designation of those programs, and in that case, being able to put in place that accountability and of course, provide the resources. So again, we already went over the poll here, which is that 100% said that you have food safety management system. But I would like to pull that out again. If you could please pull these out, ones that I have explained, what is the difference between a QC center system and a food safety management system, and see what the outcome is of that poll on the slide, on this slide. So please go ahead and answer the question again. QC center system, what type of system design does your company have? So QC center system, there's one food safety management system. So we have 3 people answering, 4. Okay. So can we share? So we do have 50% food safety management system responsibilities for food safety program are leveraged across company. We have QC center system 25%. A mix of both is 25%. Again, this is a systemic failure that doesn't support a food safety management system. So something for you to review because it doesn't help. It doesn't help to have QC center systems with GFSI or non-GFSI programs. It doesn't matter whether it's GFSI or not. Thank you so much for your answers. So let's talk about now organizational personal changes. Number one, this system ensures integrity of the food safety programs. You know, it's big. The objective is to back up to take over food safety responsibilities in the absence of key personnel, absenteeism, and applies to management and supervisory level as well. So applies to frontline employees with food safety responsibilities, critical control points, preventive controls monitoring activities, good manufacturing practices control points, and quality assurance verification activities as well. It covers, you know, every department has to have a plan when it comes to cross-training to fulfill those responsibilities in any event associated with employee turnover or absenteeism. All must be competent to take over food safety responsibilities, as I explained, which, you know, change the name of the game when it comes to training. The verification system is a great tool to do verify competency of the employees once the training has been provided. Develop a system to verify that competency, again, validation, verification through testing, through interviewing, going over the employee or management to ensure that there's a clear understanding of those responsibilities. Build the skill matrix per job description at all levels of the organizational chart. Maintain the system once up and running, and requirements builds up, scheduling flexibility, reducing food safety risks. And here's the case scenario what many companies did when they were able to have, when they had these kind of systems, they were able to cover the disruptions impacted due to personnel changes. We have the staffing flexibility, partner with staffing agencies to cover basic functions, but make sure that it is a real partner, which means that the companies, the staffing agencies have to take over responsibilities when it comes to training that is and making sure that those employees are competent for basic, fulfilling basic positions in the companies. Once you create the training matrix, you can mix it up by cross-training production line employees in other departments. You have more than one line, operations versus sanitation. So employees doing operations, if they're properly cross-trained, they can fulfill or cover the absence of employees in sanitation. It is required to have a solid and versatile cross-trained employees to be able to do this, to create the flexibility, create, for example, alternate shifts cut into shorter periods, for example, to expand the workforce by attracting workers in need of flexible schedules that came up, for example, due to the situation with the schools and the kids and flexibility to be at home or flexibility to pick them up, adjusting the shift stop and breaks to coordinate with workers, for example, personal demands such as picking up kids from childcare or school. So look how great it is. And actually, there were many companies, and you can read it in this article, that were able to reduce costs as well.
Oscar, sorry to interrupt. I think we are hearing a lot of audio feedback, and that's with the attendees too. Can you just pull your mic a little closer if you don't mind?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a machine close by working, mowing the lawn. So I'm sorry about that.
No
Anyways,
problem.
so so that's basically, many companies were able to overcome the big impact associated with COVID-19 and the employee shortages due to COVID-19. So it was a critical tool to manage overtime and keeping workers happy as well. Many companies actually were able to reduce costs through reduction of overtime and create that flexibility and give employees control on for example, self-scheduling, allowing them to adjust, to choose the different shifts based on their personal or lifestyle needs during this pandemic. Supply approval. So number one, know your supply chain and establish a good relationship with your suppliers. Look at supplier as a whole within the supply chain as well. Original sources, distributors, transportation, logistics, sources of the raw materials of those suppliers as well. Expand risk assessment to import versus export, country of origin, logistics, quality, percentage of contribution in comparison with other suppliers, 5% versus 50%. Financial stability of the supplier, supply performance, etc. So again, the message here is do not limit assessments to food safety. Go beyond that. Put in place control based on percentage of supplies and dependency on specific suppliers. You recall when Pina Corporation recall took place, many companies were depending about 60% of the supply of peanut butter. As a result, they had to conduct recalls up to 3 months worth of product. Those companies didn't make it. So it's a high risk when you have high dependency on specific raw materials that you put into your finished product. Spread the risk by increasing number of suppliers and use crisis management and conduct what-if scenarios and develop contingency plans based on suppliers' level of risk. Include within these assessments key service providers as well, like pest control. So those are systemic things that you can be doing or activities to protect the maintenance of the food safety programs in case of disruption. Food fraud, the cost of food fraud globally is about $50 billion. Systems responsible for checking, inspecting, auditing, and testing have scaled back, certification bodies, lab testing during the pandemic. So all this has systemically impacted the maintenance of these kind of programs. Opportunity, of course, that became an opportunity for the FIPS to scale up operations by those involved in these kind of activities. For the first semester of 2020, 19 organized crime groups were dismantled, over 400 arrests made. Mark up those countries where those materials, where food fraud is mostly likely to occur as well. Food types, you go through the list, and the statistics included cereals, grains, meat, coffee, tea, spices, and dairy, among others of the regular ones like honey, etc. So the mitigation strategies is on the code and is in the requirements. Conduct the vulnerability analysis, set new mitigation strategies as appropriate. Work together with your suppliers, identify the likelihood of materials coming from your suppliers in case of this situation. I would integrate this into my crisis management checklist. Watch closely for discounted prices and flag those as well. Buy from reputable sources and ask the right questions. But again, when you hit a disruption like this, you gotta have in place those plans through crisis management as well, so that you don't get caught up in the midst without knowing what to do. Watch out for extended expiration dates in these days of materials that may have been parked in a warehouse due to the pandemic. Increase testing to verify food safety and quality compliance and verification activities. Look for evidence of changed labels to spot irregularities, and if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So, put the sense when it comes to situations that you may see, pricing and so on. Crisis management, please do not underestimate the power of this management tool. In many cases, companies just go and do a really basic drill, but never come out with situations that could be occurring, and put those into the drills and practice and identify strategic plans to overcome those situations. Conduct regular drills with different unforeseen scenarios. This pandemic is a clear example of things that can be integrated if you yet don't have plans to overcome those crisis situations that took place, or vulnerabilities that took place. Unforeseen scenarios help companies be better prepared to face and adapt to the pandemic as well. Use the crisis management tool to follow up on ongoing issues that may escalate due to uncertainty, change of regulatory requirements, which is coming, food fraud, drop in sales, emerge of new COVID strains, the impact, because this is not done yet. And finally, what is the role of IT when it comes to food safety and quality software? Number one, IT software, what happens is that, swimming in paperwork and hard copies do not help and distract the focus that companies should have in the added value of the food safety programs into the administrative role. And put aside, tracking the data that comes out of the monitoring activities for decision making. Well, IT removes the distraction and administrative burden of personnel maintaining paperwork. It has a return of investment from that perspective. Data collection and data tracking allows instant access to the added value of food safety programs brings to the companies, evaluating, tracking on critical control points in real time, for example, tracking control points on the good manufacturing practices, tracking food safety objectives in the company, tracking non-conformities and corrective actions and so on, allows real-time and remote tracking of system performance. So with this situation and working off home, now quality departments, even consultants, can work off home, home offices, and provide verification activities and conduct verification activities and track performance of the food safety programs. Also creates visibility, enhancing accountability as a result. With the visibility through the system allows you to see missing monitoring activities through software automatic systems reporting when deviations occur, and so on. IT allows easy data trending, verification, and validation for decision making as well, and it's a great tool for continuous improvement initiatives. So, as a conclusion, food safety management systems, I put it as an analogy for everybody to better understand. It's like a car. The car has different systems. Some of those systems are more important than others. But the bottom line is that independently of the importance or not, a car with a flat tire can go nowhere. And it's similar in food safety systems. Some of them are more important, like, for example, management commitment is the engine system or the food safety program. We have another one which is really critical, which is the training fuel system, or, for example, the food safety system, which is the transmission of the car. The car with those important systems cannot move if something fails. And in other cases, it's not as important, like document control, for example. But, it could become a flat tire. You don't control, for example, a form that was updated with the limits for the critical control point. It could, get a flat tire and get into a critical situation if that is not under control. Anyways, so I put here different analogies, like, for example, supplier approval is the steering wheel of the system, is a transmission, the food safety system is the transmission. The verification works as the computer system that is checking that everything is in performance, is in compliance, and send the warnings when it's not properly working. The crisis management and product traceability is the emergency brake system, and the food defense and food fraud is the airbag and security belt systems. So the bottom line here is that this is interconnected, and the car as a whole must have all those systems interacting so that it can move from point A to point B. In this case, the food safety systems allow to deliver safe products to the consumers. Now, I would like to ask for the last poll here before we get into the takeaway. So our company understands the role of food safety management systems and is systemically managing the food safety program. Yes or no? Or yes, but there are plenty of opportunities to improve. Okay, so we got here, yes, 50%, and 133%, yes, but there are plenty of opportunities. So is there anybody else? So we have yes, 50%, and yes, but there are plenty of opportunities to improve, another 50%. So it's shared. Great. Okay, to finish, the takeaways, the food safety program compliance depends on the systems, for sure. And a careful look needs to be in place on how systemically the company is able to have these systems and operate these systems to fulfill all those monitoring activities that are taking place at the hazard plan level, those controls, critical control points, and GMPs. Food safety system management systems provide the companies with flexibility and capability to quickly adapt to changes. That's the beauty of food safety management systems. You have appropriate systems in place, it's very easy to quickly adapt and adjust to changes that may take in the market or inside the company as well. The system failures cause domino effects that may trickle down and for the most time trickle down and impact foundational programs such as controls and the good manufacturing practices, critical control points, and preventive controls. So the right system design should leverage and disseminate food safety responsibilities from top management to frontline employees. Everybody must be included with their responsibilities from big picture, senior management, to the details of the requirements of the food safety code. The opportunity regarding food safety management systems for sure is educational. More than one time when we educate top management on these type of aspects, guess what? They come back really excited and they find not only the opportunity toward these kind of programs, but other programs within the company like quality, safety, and other ones that require those systems as well. So you could please, I'm gonna now finally open it up for any questions that you may have on this presentation.
Thank you, Oscar, for the wonderful presentation. I think it summarizes all the key points that food safety is really important and it needs to be maintained every single day. Each and every person is responsible for the food safety, and it's just not one department or one person. So I have a couple of questions that people have asked. So the first question is, Bruce would like to know, based on your experience, have you seen companies with better food safety culture did not have breaches of their programs, or was it more that all companies had breaches of food safety? This question circles around the fact that there have been less food recalls during the pandemic than previous times, making him think that all companies did better on the food safety issues during the pandemic, even though all companies most likely had disruptions.
Okay.
That's the first question.
Yeah, well, really great question. The first part is that, there's not a perfect world out there. And that's why the systems are in place. Because companies need to learn how to balance and mitigate risk. The systems are in place, basically, to be able to respond to any kind of disruption and maintain the food safety programs. It doesn't mean that non-conformities or non-compliance is going to show up, but by having the flexibility to manage and through the understanding and implementation of food safety programs means the company that can quickly adapt and adjust the requirements of those systems to maintain the food safety program. So I would say definitely there's no perfect world, which means, you may get into disruptions, but that may not be critical. And if they are, the system themselves will be able to take control of those. Now, on the second part, we will have to do a much more deeply evaluation on the reason why recalls were reduced. It might be for two reasons. Number one, that definitely companies were able to take care of food safety, or that due to lack of verification activities like regulatory audits, which is big, and even third-party audits, private schemes like SQF and FSSC 22000, the statistics were not there to track the real situation. So in other words, the food safety recalls or deviations in the market that justify recalls when underwater due to the disruption or the pandemic, and the statistics were not able to identify those either because companies took advantage and did not report that, number one, or for whatever other reason. But the statistics are not out there to identify root causes and the reality of the outcome, which is reduction of those recalls.
Thank you. I think that summarizes. That was a good answer. I have another question. You have presented areas where management must assure that there are best programs in place to prevent issues during future disruptions, like culture, suppliers, personal changes, etc. Which are, if any, would you recommend quality practitioners prioritize to have the best control prior to the next major disruption?
Well, that's a great question, but I would say that number one, you need to review if in your company, the different departments are working in a silo. Do you have a QC versus a food safety management system? Because that's really big when it comes to systemic failure that in the event of disruption are very difficult to, the companies have really real challenges depending on the situation to control the maintenance of the food safety program. So that's number one. Number two, education to senior management, for senior management to review those responsibilities that I went over and make sure that the resources are in place and the execution of those programs and the development of those systems are in place to be ready to face any additional disruption or crisis that the company may go through. I would say when senior management understands this and is properly educated on the pluses that brings into the company when it comes to the continuity of the business, number one, and number two, protection of the brand due to maintenance of the food safety program, they really get on board to this. So it's educational from that perspective. Once they get it and they are on board, they're going to support the action plans to put in place these solid systems.
Thank you, Oscar. Bringing to the point that you answered the first question, I have another point to add. You could probably conclude with that. I think many companies have also postponed their third-party audits or any audits that's like customer audits, for example. And this has also like laid back food safety, like the importance of food safety, I would say, because it's really important that from an outside world, a person comes in to validate and verify your food safety system. So I've noticed, because the auditor who came to our facility, she told us that many companies have postponed or they're postponing. So how do you think this impacts recalls as well? Because I know that's related to the question that Bruce asked and to the answer that you did. So it could be interesting to know if you have an like statistical answer.
Well, again, in many cases, companies focus on the audit itself. That's it. That's a mistake, because the bottom line of this is delivering safety products to the client, and the focus is on the certificate, to stay in business. Yes, that's important, but more important is, the continuity of the business and the protection of the brand, and the protection, of course, of the consumer. So you put that up front, there's a big change, and no matter you had to postpone the audit or you don't have an audit, you still keep this as a priority within your business, and follow this webinar when it comes to implementing solid foundation through system design and be able to deliver safe food. So how that did impacted the additional recalls during this period of time, again, it comes back to my answer previously. We don't know the bottom line because we don't have numbers or statistics to find out why is it that we didn't see as many recalls as we used to. Again, the regulation plays a very important role because there's fear, and many people are driven by fear when it comes to that situation. Probably that was what happened because the regulators were not on top. Those situations went underwater, and behind the scenes, they were worked out. I don't know. It could be that actually they were reduced. But, with all these disruptions, more likely companies had issues that could end up with additional problems related to food safety. That's the logic, but, I don't have the numbers.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, and I have a positive comment. Bruce says, nice analogy with the parts of the car, comparing that with the food safety. So any one of you have any other questions? If not, I think we can end the session here. Thank you, Oscar, again for your time and for the lovely presentation. And I would like to remind everyone that we have a few more educational events like this the rest of the month. So if you want to register, you could go on the NCIFT page, suppliers events, and register for other events too.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, Reshmi.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Alice.